Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. This is Juliette Hahn here with my co-host Brent Sopel. How are you?
Sore. Tired. Allergies suck.
Oh, happy Monday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good to hear. Well, we are going to dive right into it then. We're going to talk about how there's so much out there right now being like, this is the reading program, but people have to do, and we go through this all the time, right? We were talking about like when Montgomery was young, when Lila was young, when kids are young, everyone jumps on one thing. And we have been saying, like you especially have been very vocal on, like, it's not about one thing, but we wanted to clarify a bunch of things because there's a lot of science or reading information going out there. And it's not that we are disagreeing with science or reading. We believe, though, and I'm going to let you speak, but I'm just going to kind of recap here. We believe that you need a multiple things, not every kid is different. We talk about that a million times. We all learn different. We talk about how there's certain ways that you learn that are different than the ways I learn. So when you're dyslexic, even when you're not dyslexic, there's different things. So saying that one program is the be all end all is incorrect. Now, it's also incorrect when the people that are pushing it, we know that there's an agenda behind it. So when we are going on and talking about these things, it's more because we know the back end of what's happening, and those people are getting money in their pockets because they're pushing a certain thing. So people have to be really careful about what they listen to and what they take in, because you have to know the motives behind what is going on. And so I'm going to let you kind of dive in there and speak a little on that.
You've got, like some of the biggest textbooks companies in the world. They don't acknowledge dyslexia. Why? Because then, dyslexia audiobooks, then they lose money. The educators at the top are some of the most egotistical people, but the people that are trying to change legislation to be only science reading, who aren't teachers, they're like, it's fucking insane. Obviously, one of the things with my dyslexia, right? I can see things coming. I can put pieces together that's, nobody can. It's some of those selfish people, ego-driven people, money-driven, but it's not for the kid. We are obviously, our line is, the kid in the chair. These people have never been in that chair, so they don't understand. Obviously there's, dyslexia. You got Wilson reading. You got Orden Gillingham. You've got a few different reading programs. You've got to be able to take bits and pieces of a lot of different things to put it together. Again, these people that are trying to push legislation is insane. You're just gonna do the same thing. So now we're gonna go out, and it may be a method to teach, but then you've got to go rewrite all the books. There's money being made. Let's fucking be correct. Let's be clear. Why they change the math? Now the kids' math now is way different, because you got to go rewrite all the textbooks. They got to print new textbooks. So it doesn't matter how. It comes down to dollars and cents. Just because they say on the outside it looks nice and flashy and they're doing good things.
Yeah.
You got to dig deeper. And I have, obviously I have. And there's not one method that can work for everybody right now. There isn't. And the teachers aren't taught, like we say this all the time, they're taught out of one way out of a textbook. It doesn't matter if it's Fontes and Pinellas, that lawsuit, if it's science reading. When you know how to teach one way, you can only help a group of kids. Mm-hmm. One group, and the rest fail. because you can't pivot. You're getting taught out of a textbook. That's why the world is the way it is today. You go to a therapist, as I always say, you got to go to somebody who's got, 2 or 3 of your major traumas, right? Because they're going to teach you on experience, count you on experience, not out of a textbook on page 122. You know that they don't understand. How many times people I'm never going back to therapist. They don't understand. You walk out of there more pissed off because right? You can only teach. It's no different 20 years ago till now. It doesn't matter what method. It's only one way. That's not how the world is. Used to be. And that's why dyslexia has been around over 100 years. And we're still in the same spot. Still driven by the researchers. Research-based. Go fucking stick a finger up your ass with your research. I live it every day. I don't need to. I don't need to sit in a room and listen to you talk monotoned and you pretend you know what I feel. Maybe if I come punch you in the face, then you know how I feel. They go have these big conferences and spend all this money and look at us and we're doing great things. We're going to go pass legislation. Are you going to help, a couple of kids? Absolutely. But are you helping everybody that you're saying you are? No.
Right. Because again, as you said, and we're talking about a few individuals, if you didn't pick up on that, but they don't have dyslexia.
It's a cult right now. Salisbury is a cult, right? It's like we're in Texas and we're at the on a ranch, right? It's a cult. Science reading has been around for 30 some years. And now,
I think it's even been longer than that. But
even longer than that, yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's the best and biggest thing, just because somebody's got a connection, and it's the new shiny toy on the market right now. And we've seen this with reading programs, with math programs, as Brent has stated, in education. I know, especially for like when Montgomery was in school, they changed it 2 times when he was early. And so he not only is dyslexic and dyscalculia, but then missed so much important things because they were changing it. And like, well, no, this is how the kids need to learn. And no, we don't know all the time how every single kid it has to be blended, and you have to take individual kids or individual groups. And yes, does it take more work? Yes, but how are we going to get, when we look at these percentages, you just said in Baltimore, Chicago, New York, there's 0% graduation rates. Things are worse than they ever been. Is COVID a factor? Yes, because of kids not being able to read, because kids are having to do screens and the mental health and all of that. But we were headed down that path anyways because of the education system being so fucked up. Yeah. Everybody can point their finger at COVID. Where I'm going to point the finger at COVID is the mental health of a lot of the parents, the adults.
Yeah,
have never been worse, right? So they're not getting their help, right? So who's it falling on? It's falling on the kids, right? And that's getting worse is because there's no relatability. Not having any clue to understand how I feel. You'll never understand, but you don't listen. How many teachers, I'm the teacher I know. How many special ed meetings out there, this is what you need to do. Very few, there's a small percentage that listen. They want to tell us what we need. You got no idea what it feels like. You got no idea how I learn.
And it's cut and paste. It's like, this is what they learned, so this is what they think you did. And it's like, right. Oh, this is what every kid needs to do. Here's the black and white.
Right. So it's, COVID just expedited that mental health. And then now that's the epidemic to me in this world, is people who have no clue telling, right? You've got counselors. That's somebody said there's an epidemic of shortage of counselors, because it's nerds sitting in a chair listening to somebody. You're not going to have clue and understand what I've gone through. And it's counseling out of a book. That's all we do is out of a book. Oh, this nurse is rehabbing this guy's knee, never been in there, but this is what the book says. Doc, this is what the book says, right? That's where our problem is.
Yeah.
Is that the education world, they all think that they're smarter because they got a degree or two or a master's, which is bullshit. I can fucking put you in a loop before you even know I fucking did it. Right? But you can go and say you've got a piece of paper. Great. But that's got no understanding of me. And the ego that comes with it is, so they hand you a piece of paper and they hand you an ego at the same time. And they need to tell us, they want to tell us this is how it's done. My daughter did, Wilson reading when I think Ed Montgomery did Orton Gillingham.
Yeah, well, he did Wilson first, which didn't work with him because the way that they were teaching him wasn't good. And then he did Orton Gillingham, and that is what, but it's also depends on who is giving it, as you said. And that's the huge part that keeps being missed here. It's like, oh, the science of reading needs to be done. But the teachers, first of all, not being taught how to do it. And then also it's not just the one thing. It needs to be a blend of everything. You need your phonics. You need your, the system, whatever. I'm not going to go into all the freaking details because it's maddening.
It's, somebody dies and, you got $50 million was given to you. And I'm going to go buy a business for $50 million, whatever that is, and just buy it and think you know how to run it. It's not how it works. You've got to, if you're going to invest, that's why you got the most successful companies. Obviously, they started from the bottom. They've done every job. To understand every job, to be able to pivot from every job, to have full understanding, except for us, except for education, right? No clue. How does that make sense? You want to teach us, but you have zero clue about us, no understanding, no relatability. That makes zero sense to me, and that's why we keep spending the money. That's why the world is getting the way it is. You see now, obviously, with the education department, in Chicago, 0% efficiency, some graduation rate, 0%. They don't care. Here in Chicago, obviously, that's a whole different story. They care about green buses. If you cared that much about kids, it'd be a whole different story, right? And that's where the political side comes in. That's where, their paycheck is more important than the kid. Liz was telling me, one of the girls that her mom babysits, she's kindergarten, and teacher said, I'll give you 4 weeks. If she acts like this, after 4 weeks, she's gone. Obviously, her, we've talked about what she has. She's got other things going on, learning disorders. And 4 weeks, they're going to kick her out. That's what the teacher said. Fuck you. Or the other lady, when a special ed teacher looks at the mom and said, you're exhausting for advocating for my daughter. No, you're fucking exhausting, you fucking bitch, because you don't understand. You're not listening to me. You're not listening what I go through every day, because and that's where it is. You're a special education teacher, coordinator, whatever title, and you're looking at the parents and you're exhausting when the kid's got learning disorders and she's trying to advocate for your kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting. And, just to bring it, and we've talked about this before, but just to kind of bring it not full circle, but to give also more examples, top really successful universities, top of their education, the people that run the education programs didn't realize there's certain things in certain states that you can't put in. They had no idea of how an IEP worked. They are running an educational program. So teachers are going through this, but they don't know what it is on the streets. They don't know what the teachers actually are going through and what the kids in the chair are going through, but they have all the degrees. They stayed in school to be able to run this educational program because I'm sure they were good in school. And it was like, oh, this is great. I have all these credentials and I can help. And I'm sure that they have a heart that they really, really wanted to help and see things. But when you, as you said, when you don't live it and you don't have the experience, how can you actually be the head of something and preaching to the people that are supposed to be in the chairs and supposed to be helping the kids on the street? How does that make any fucking sense?
None of it makes sense. And that's what this all comes down to is, obviously, with Trump abolishing the education and putting it back on the states, you've got, I don't remember the head of the educator, whatever, Randy or whatever the fuck her name was, going nuts. Chicago, we got some schools. I think it was 30 something schools. I have 0% graduation rate. Like,
how is that okay? How is that okay? And Baltimore too. That just came out too.
Yeah. We're I think the average, we're less than 20% efficiency in reading, in the country. Why? Because they know best. Because now, I've got the next best reading program. So now I'm going to sell it to you so you can buy it. I know there's another program, lady in New York, Canadian, built a program, great. And she's selling it to school districts, more expensive. And she said, it's business now. It's a business when I put your fucking curb around your teeth and I fucking knock them out. Because what is it about the kids? No, it's a business. This is all a business. It's all money. Don't tell me you care. Because if you cared, you'd listen. Obviously, there's certain people, but science reading is a cult. We're going to look back, right? It's these people think that Ohio, is the best state. Oh, you can't recognize the word dyslexia in Ohio. So that's a great state, right? That's awesome. In Illinois, if you go get a neuropsych, the schools don't need to take it anymore with the new bill in 24. They give their own. They give their own diagnosis of what they want. Oh, that's for the kid, right? UK, they got rid of the word dyslexia for the whole country. Now it's learning difference, right? Why? It's cheaper, right? They don't have it. They understand. They don't understand. So, I think some people are, obviously, it's right talking about the way school is just to make factory workers, or
that's what it was when school, right? The first school systems came about, or the first school came about. So assembly lines.
Yeah, look at the cell phone. We have one now. Like look what it does. What happened to the rotary phone that we were talking about the other day? It's not changing, right? Because look who's on top. Look who's on top, telling they're the smartest people in the world. Like, why? Yeah. Oh.
I was like, what is that noise?
I was printing about an hour ago. I was trying to print these papers and decided to spit it out right now. But it's
interesting.
It's not changing,
interesting,
right? So they always
right.
Oh no, it's look how small. I can't even read it. So
jeez.
You've got to you pivot. You've got to learn. You got to explore. Now it's the next phase. The AI is the next new shiny toy. AI is going to do for education. Let's go back to basics, right? Elizabeth was at a call this morning, a training thing. It fucking painful. Listen to monotone. This is how you learn. Then we do this, and then we go here. Then we all don't learn that way. And I wanted to shoot myself just listen to that voice for 10 minutes. We talk about this all the time. How do you learn? How do you teach? Science reading, you can only teach one way. We need 4 or 5 different ways. You need to be able to pivot. You need to be able to try new things, and you can't try new things if you don't know there's new things out there.
And it needs to be a blend of all of them. It can't be just one. And it has to. People need to stop. And I know it's, this is I can say this and we can laugh, but it has to be like, it's not about the money, it's about the kids. And if we can just flip that, I think everyone will open their eyes and be like, oh, wait, we've been doing things wrong. But people, they don't. It's a bottom line, as you said. And it's, it is so disheartening hearing, right, parent after parent after parent talking and their experiences in all these different states that are reaching out. And it's like, we all have similar stories, and it's just, it boggles my mind, but then it doesn't. It's like one of those like mind fucks where you're like, yeah, I'm not surprised, but like, I am so surprised because it's so not efficient, as you said, like to run a successful business, right? The businesses that are the most successful is the people that have been in the trenches, right? The kid in the chair that have been in the trenches, that have learned all the different things. And we're listening to people that are not dyslexic. I mean, that's one thing that we talk about. They're not dyscalculia. They're not dysgraphic, on ADHD. They are, not dyspraxia. They are none of these. And yes, we know there's some of you out there. We understand that. But some of you out there that also have these have also been drinking the Kool-Aid because you're now surrounded by the people that are not. So you kind of keep your experiences, in my opinion, to, like, okay, well, we need to jump on this. It's about like all these people just following the sheep and following the herd and not having a mind of their own. But when you really think about it, it's so simple. It's there's not one thing for everyone. Not everyone can fit into a square hole.
And
not everyone. Not everyone's the same shape.
No, and just because your kid have it, you still don't understand it.
Right. Right. You understand as a parent.
Right.
100%.
100%. But you don't understand it.
And you might understand and you saw your kid struggle and then something that helped. And it was like, oh my gosh, I want to help all the other kids. So we're not saying that in the beginning, these people, what their mind and why they wanted to do it in the beginning is because they probably were like, oh my gosh, I can help. And then all of a sudden there's a switch, and we've seen it time and time again, not just in the dyslexic world. You can see it in the business world. You can see it in every medical, all of the worlds. And when it comes to money, people shift and things stop being about, the beginning, like why they started. Like, go back to why you started it.
You say this all the time. They started out with good intentions, and yeah,
I do. I believe everyone starts with good intentions. I don't think people are out there, especially in this. I really don't. And
yeah, I know.
I know you believe that.
And I don't believe that for a second.
I know.
Obviously, what I've gone through, but just watching the actions of some of them, you don't have it, so you don't have that full understanding, right? So it's, you can see the little end of the rainbow for this little shiny gold pot. You take a look at a lot of people that are pushing it. They already have money. They want more, right? It's never about the kids. So if you're doing a business, why do you have to make 10x on it? Why not 2 or 3? Let's make 10x on a struggling kid, and then the parents are struggling because in financially they got to try and keep up. Then their marriage goes, oh, that sounds like you're such a great human. Good job for doing that. Meanwhile, you're sitting in your house you got the 2 rooms and nobody can go in there. You can just look at, right? It's sad to see, obviously the statistics, Chicago being here, the statistics, like to hear that, and it's not fair to kid. And let me tell you, it's not fun to live like this. And why do you think, you can't read? Of course you're going to go do drugs, because I love doing drugs. I want to do drugs every day to escape what this feels like, to know you're different, to know your struggle, the anxiety, the mental health that goes through on this side. No, if I could take that away from every kid, holy fuck, absolutely. And that's what the goal is. But to see, kids that can't read, like 0% graduation rates. Oh, let's keep kids in school. Why would I be? I wouldn't be going to school either.
No. And I mean, like, we're not talking about like 0% reading rates or 0% like elementary school. We're talking about graduation rates. So we're like talking about 12th grade. So like I mean, what are we doing? Like, what are we fucking doing? Like, what? And yeah, and I know when we go back and forth talking about the intentions and stuff, but I really truly believe that people, and it's because I want to believe that. I don't want to believe that people wake up and are like, I'm just evil, or I'm going to be a dick today, right? We talk about that, and which we laugh about, but like I live life thinking that there's good intentions, and right, we live in different worlds, so like I get that, but I like that world to be like, no, not everyone. Like I really do believe if you're a parent and you're like, oh my god, this works for my kid, how can I help other kids feel this? Like it starts with that initial like, oh my god, this is exciting. Maybe it churns quickly, like, oh, I can make a lot of money on this too, but I do think it's like, oh, I saw that was a relief. I saw my kid have a bright eye. I want to duplicate that for others, and I will live like that forever.
You got
as hard as we can get.
You got hedge funds buying up dentist offices, buying up, right?
Yeah,
because money.
Plastic surgeon's office. Oh, I know that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like things you'd never ever think of. Veterinarians. Like, what's it come down to? So they may not, but there's certain people that go in there, and start that and get going. But, a good portion of people don't.
Yeah. No, and you're right. No, there are, right. But so what the message that we want to really get across is that we're not saying that the science reading is bad. And I want to make that very clear. We are saying that we believe and we know, because we are dyslexic. We have kids that are dyslexic, that it has to be a blend. It can't just be one. And the more that people just push one thing is ridiculous. Look at the pushing before, right? The lawsuit, that was the whole world, Lucy Corcoran, all of these people fighting about it has to be this, it has to be that. It has to be a fucking blend, because every kid is different. And every kid, it doesn't matter if you have dyslexia, every kid is different. Every dyslexic learns different.
And then the Fonts Pinellas thing out of Massachusetts, getting sued, then people getting on there talking about that. That's where you can see where the intentions are. Never, ever do you hear anything about the kid in the chair.
Mm-mm.
Never.
Nope.
And that's at the end of the day, comes down to it. Is putting yourself, obviously never judge a book by a cover, right? But they're sure going to teach. Oh, You're a kid and you're in 4th grade. Okay, you're going to learn this way.
Yep. And all the things that the kids learn before it's caught, all the ways that they know how to get out of it. As you just said, like, you don't look it's the invisible, like that's the other thing is it's so many things that we can get out of because we don't even realize that we're doing it. Right. We talk about Montgomery and his memorizing. He wasn't like, oh, look, I'm going to get the teacher to tell me the book so I can be a sneak. No, it was because, wait, I need that. So I can, like, that's how he thought that's how he read. So like, we have to really, it's so simple, but everyone makes it so complicated, and it's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. And so it has to be a number of different things that everyone needs. When the intentions behind people pushing certain things, we know that the intentions are not good. We're not going to sit there and be like, oh, we're jumping on those coattails to say, we will be ones, especially this guy over here, that are going to call you out on your shit. So like, keep up, keep going around saying that this is how it has to be, and these other ones are not right, and trying to, shut things down. It's not the way it is, and it's not going to help the kid in the chair. And if you really want to help the kid in the chair, really think about your intentions and how you're approaching things and what you're pushing and what you're saying out in the public, because people listen. And listen, we talk about, I could have gotten any job, right? I could get any job because I can interview really well. Do I know what I'm doing in any job? No. And that's, a lot of these people are really good salespeople. They got really good personalities and they know what to fucking say. But actually, when you start uncovering it and listening, you're like, wait a second. Or wait, what are the intentions? So when you're listening to people and you're like, oh, it has to be this way. ask some questions. And that's where Curious George comes back in, but ask fucking questions. Don't take it just for a grain of salt because you hear someone that it can speak well and seems like they got a good following on Instagram, or not even that, or have a good following, or they make a lot of money. Doesn't mean they know what the fuck they're doing. So do your homework before you start listening and saying, this is how it has to be, because that's not the way the world works. And that's not how we learn and not how the kids learn.
Right.
Got a little angry there. And I'm just
I could go on, I could really go off, but I'm just going to be somewhat nice.
Okay. So we're going to leave it there. Thank you for listening to another episode of Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. We will see you again. You know what I say every single time: like, rate, review, and share, because you don't know right now who is jumping on certain things because they heard pieces of it, or they read an article, or they're like, wait, that person knows what they're doing. And it actually is not the way the world really should work. So do your homework and ask fucking questions before you jump on bandwagons.